Let's do the eighth aspect in which we can emulate Keser. Piv, here, he's talking about the mouth. So we spoke about hearing, sight, smell, a person's facial features in general, and now the mouth. Lo yotzi ela toiva. He should only speak good things. V'gzeras amorov, toira v'hafkaras rotzoin, v'hafokas rotzoin, toiv tamid. And whatever he emits from his mouth should only be words of Torah and of expressing goodwill always. He should not enunciate from his mouth anything which is unacceptable. V'lo klola, nor curse. V'lo roges, nor anger or impatience. V'kas, nor should he speak words of anger. Kalal. V'lo dvarim betelim, nor should he speak words which are, let's say, totally mundane, nonsensical, have no real purpose. So not only should a person avoid speaking in ways which are going to be prohibitions, anger, lashon hara, or evil speech and things like this, but even if it's nothing that's particularly an outright transgression, it's just mundane conversation for no purpose, just to shoot the breeze, that's also should be avoided. In this way, he should be like that mouth on high, that supernal mouth. Again, imagine he's talking about in Keser. Whenever he's talking about, in general here, he's talking about Keser. When he uses the term the upper, the supernal, he's always referring to the highest sphere, Keser. She'eno nistam klal. That mouth is never closed. V'lo yimna atov, and it won't hold back good, tamid, ever. So again, he's talking anthropomorphologically regarding the Keser as passing on decrees of God into the world, this way verbally. And that's always for good. In Keser there's no bad, there's no evil, there's no judgment, there's no din. And therefore only good things are being communicated, meaning spoken, in that place. So therefore a person should also not be quiet from speaking good. I'll call upon everyone. To constantly be emitting good, beneficial speech, which is full of blessing to other people all of the time. Good speech. The power of speech is very powerful. We spoke about that a little bit in the past, I think. Yes, the power of speech is literally a power. Through our speech, we have the power to move things, to do things, to move people through our speech, and to spiritually move forces in the world as well. And therefore, when we use our power of speech properly, we're speaking positively. What we're doing is we're actually bringing in positive power of blessing to the world for our benefit and that of others. When you speak in a way which inspires others, when you speak in a way which makes other people happy, when you speak in a way which puts people in a good mood, you're actually creating energy in the world. It's an amazing thing. It's like a ripple effect, right? When you communicate something positive that's received graciously by people who are listening, so they're moved by that speech to think positive, to speak positive, and to do positive. So that means through your words, you're literally bringing that positive energy in the world that ripples down through anybody who is affecting, and that creates much, much more positive energy in the world. That's the power of speech. The opposite can be also true, God forbid. If a person speaks negatively, it can have a great harm in the world. It can cause great harm in the world. Speech has the power to create, therefore. And therefore, when the Torah talks about God creating, right, V'yomer Hashem, and God said, "Let there be." Now, I don't know if he actually spoke the words, but there was the equivalent of executing an idea. And that's what speech does. Speech executes an idea, and it brings things into being. It's connected with creation. It's an amazing, amazing power. In Hebrew, lidaber, to speak is lidaber. Bar means something which is outside, external. Therefore, a son for example, is called a bar. He's a son. He's an external manifestation of the Father. Right? Or the wilderness, the outlying areas, is called a midbar, which is spelled the same way as midaber, to speak. We find that in Jewish sources, the sages, often went out into the midbar in order to be midaber with Hashem. Right? Going to the midbar means getting out of one's kind of context in order to be able to midaber, speak with God, bringing forth a latent spiritual power which people often don't realize in their daily living until they get out of themselves. So going into the midbar is getting out of oneself in order to find godliness within oneself and also take it out from oneself. That's midbar. Right? And so that's what midaber means, to take something, me, from within, and take it, the deber, out. Midaber. And that's what language does. Language has the power to create, taking something from the inward potential to the external realization. That's how powerful our speech is, right? And think about the idea that literally all of creation is described in the Torah as coming out through the dibur of Hashem, midaber, coming from the internal essence of God and being communicated in a venue which is similar to that of language outside the act of creation. And we have this tremendous power of speech. For this reason that we have the custom not to mention the names of angels or of demons, because just mentioning their names with our power of speech causes them to come and be ready to do our bidding. And when a person mentions the name of the angels or mentions the names of the demons, but he doesn't actually have the power, doesn't know how to harness that power to do something, that power, that force which has been called to his service, has to be used in some way. And if the person doesn't use it productively, then it can be destructive for himself or for others. And that's really the reason why we don't mention the names of angels or of demons, because you don't call them unless you're going to use them. But you see from here that we do have potential, the power to use these forces. And the Shulchan Aruch actually talks about a person being able to pronounce the names of demons, not only angels but even demons, in order to do his bidding. Right? And this is also connected, by the way, to the custom why Jews don't whistle. Because whistling is also kind of associated with calling these forces to his service, as calling their names. And if you call them, and they come, like a dog. But you can't control the dog. There's nothing you can do with it, so the dog gets all antsy and starts chomping at your foot. You don't want that. So if you can use them, call them. But if you can't use them, don't call them. All that comes about through our power of speech. The power of speech and the power of prayer. Why not just meditate silently? I don't want to say om, but why not just meditate silently? In Judaism, right, a very important aspect of prayer is literally to emit the words of the prayer. And you don't want to say it loudly enough to disturb another person's prayer, but you have to at least hear it, pronounce it loudly enough so that you hear yourself in a whisper. You have to actually carve the words into space. That's the language that's used. When a person's praying, lach toich b'sfasav, he has to cut the words with his mouth into space. So his tongue becomes like a sword which cuts through space, engraving his words into reality. Also connected to this idea of the power of speech. Our power of speech literally makes a mark. And the things that we say have a creative or destructive effect, result. Therefore, it's very important to use our power of speech properly, to speak positively and not negatively. And influence the world in this way, in a positive way, and not in a harmful way. Okay, so here to conclude this little section on Lamed Vav, he says, Hari elu shmona midos tovos. These then are 8 good attributes. These are 8 aspects of Keser, which we should emulate. Because again, in Keser, regarding this last point, there's no din, there's no judgment. So there's no communication, as it were, of negativity in Keser into the world. And that's what we should emulate as well. V'chulan tachas degel ha'anova. All of these 8 aspects are actually under the flagship of humility. They're under the general category of humility. Shekulan lamala bekeser be'evorim elyonim. Because all of these aspects are in the supernal realm of keser above. Ube'esh sheyirtze ha'adam nizkarev lamala. And when a person wants to elevate himself, approach the upper realms, v'hidamos elav, and to emulate God, liftoyach bekarosov elatachtonim, or to emulate Keser perhaps, in order to open up its sources into, its source of bounty and blessing into the lower realm, tzarech shishtalem b'shnei prakim elu. He has to be very adept, perfect himself, work hard in attaining the information, the knowledge, the teachings that are included in these 2 chapters. Which 2 chapters? The first one, which is talking about the Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim, and then this one, which is talking about Keser. Insofar as the Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim are coming from Keser, and here he's talking about emulating Keser. That's what he seems to be saying. If a person wants to attain very high levels of spirituality, what does he have to do? Work on humility. And like we said, if a person chases humility, yes, then honor is going to be running after him. But if a person is chasing after honor, yeah, so it's constantly going to be running away from him. And chasing humility for the purpose of having honor run after him is also running after honor backwards, and that's not going to work. Yeah, you've got to sincerely be running away from honor and towards humility. What's that?
I fall exactly into this trap, being totally aware. Okay, I'm chasing honor. Okay, so I will chase humility so I can get honor. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. You might be serious, although I doubt it. But we're certainly challenged with this dichotomy that humility only works when it's sincere. But it's nishkan choichma, right? To try and gain honor through humility, because that's exactly right. It's self-defeating. And in any case, that's the point here then. A person who wants to really attain greatness has to run away from it towards humility. And the more humble he becomes, like Moshe Rabbeinu, the greater he'll actually be. And all of these aspects that he's described here, these 8 aspects of Keser, are basically different venues towards attaining and expressing humility, which will bring us, therefore, closer to Hashem, so that our greatness is not a greatness which is attributed to ourselves. It's a greatness which is reflected upon us from the source of greatness, which is God. And that's really what it's all about. When a person is running towards greatness, he's really running towards attributing greatness to himself. But since he certainly is not great, by definition, that greatness will not stick to him. But it like reflects off him. But if he makes himself hollow, so he's not accepting the greatness for himself, he's actually attaining greatness through his attachment to God. And there, God, the source of greatness, will pour his greatness into a person, and so that his greatness is real, because it's coming from himself. And since he's hollowed himself of himself, he's full of Hashem. And his degree of greatness is really the extent to which he's full of because he's full of Hashem. But the more full of himself he is, the less room he leaves for Hashem, in which case he can't at all absorb any of the greatness of Hashem. It just deflects off him. Okay, and ultimately the purpose of all of this, like he says here, is to benefit the world, like Keser does. Right? Through its humility, it attains that very high position where it doesn't at all take advantage of that greatness, the greatness of that position. On the contrary, because of its humility and its emptiness of itself, it attains that very high position for the purpose of becoming the conduit through which blessing is shared to everyone else. Okay, so let's stop here.